maybe the richest man alive, than it is to really be able to carry his team. And I don't think any of that matters to Kobe Bryant. It's an overused cliche, but with Kobe, I truly feel that winning is the only thing that matters to him, and he's proved it. So, like you guys both said, I think the Lakers still are the favorites to get the ring. But we'll get into our predictions in a little bit. There's a couple guys, a couple other big names that could potentially be on the move this year. One is Carmelo Anthony. Let's talk about the possibilities here for Melo. I actually, as a Knicks fan, once they signed Amari, granted I did want LeBron, but I actually have had Melo higher on my list and I wanted to come to New York. It looks like a possibility now that the Knicks acquire Carmelo Anthony. Of course, it's looked like a bunch of other teams have had their chances too. Guys, where do you see Carmelo landing, and what kind of impact do you see him making with his new team? Jess, go ahead. We'll start with you.
All right. I'll say I'm going to say it's going to be the same thing that I said a few weeks ago. I think it's going to be a lot of talk. In the end, he's going to stick around. He's going to be in Denver with Coach Carlback, who does wonders with that particular group of guys, and with Chauncey Billups. I think it's going to be a lot of talk, and in the end, I think he's going to stay in Denver.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, you know what? Oh, man. I don't know that that's going to happen. Only because the decision this previous offseason with LeBron James, Denver doesn't want to be put in that same position. Cleveland, basically, they were hosed with this one. Cleveland, LeBron had the chance to come back to Cleveland, and he went to Miami. And what did Cleveland get for that? Nothing. I see Melo going before the trade deadline this year, sometime before February, because they need to get something out of this. Carmelo, the Nuggets without Carmelo, I think they're still a decent team, but they drop off considerably, and they need to get something out of this. And I think that the Knicks and the Nets are the best fit for him. They're talented teams with him in the lineup. When you look at some of the players that they have there to add, I mean, Amari is heating up over there in New York. And you think about Amari and Carmelo, and some people may roast me for this, but Raymond Felton is going to I feel he's going to have a breakout year over there. He was in a restricted system over there in Charlotte with Larry Brown and bring up pass, that sort of thing. He's very structured, Larry Brown is. But over there with the Knicks, I think Raymond Felton's going to be able to spread his wings a little bit, and we're going to see a different Raymond Felton over there. So if he fits in, if he goes to the Knicks, I really like the Knicks to be a playoff team, and I don't know if they're that much of a force, but they are a nuisance at least. And the Nets, I think they're a very good team if they get LeBron also. So those are the two teams I look at that Melo goes to.
Okay, Melo turns down a 3-year, $67 million extension from Denver. I think that's about all they're going to be able to offer him. So, it's just, you could be right, but my thing is, I think if he's getting traded, it's going to be done here in the next few days. I don't think if you're Denver, you don't want the distractions. But then let's look at the offer on the table real quick, guys. And it's basically Eddie Curry's expiring contract, Gallinari, who I love, a first-round pick, and Anthony Randolph, who's a decent player. Is that anywhere near enough for a guy as talented as Carmelo? Because I just don't see many teams being able to pony up that much right now. I mean, it's weird in the NBA how expiring contracts are as good as all-star players when it comes to trading. But is that about as good as the Nuggets are going to be able to get for Carmelo?
Well, it's like I'm going to find a case with there isn't any way that Denver's going to be able to get equal value for Carmelo. There isn't any way. When you trade superstars, you can't. It's impossible to replace them. You don't in any way get equal value, and so it's either a case of, well, are you going to get enough flexibility for the future, maybe perhaps the potential in a young player, or you end up just getting scraps in the end. And that's, for example, Phoenix. That's the route Phoenix decided to take. They said, no, we're not going to trade him, and they ran with him. They had a good run of the Platinum and let him go. And while they may be competitive, they got some other pieces, but now they're thinking in the future that these are pieces they can trade to other places to get another star at some point.
Guys, do you see another name on the block here, guys? Do you see Chris Paul finishing the year in New Orleans? And here's a guy, I think the situation's a little bit different. Well, I guess they're the same, but here's a guy, it's almost comparable to LeBron in my mind. A small market team like that, they finally get their superstar in a Chris Paul, and if he wants out, same thing LeBron did. I mean, him leaving there, and I think the nucleus was a little bit better in New Orleans than it was in Cleveland, but him, if they would deal with him, I think it would be just as crippling to this team as when LeBron left Cleveland. Do you see Paul getting dealt by the deadline? Vince, we'll start with you.
Man, this one's tougher. I don't know that Chris Paul gets dealt before the trade deadline. I'm really disturbed by this whole thing. It just seems like, LeBron makes a move, and it's a move that's very good for LeBron and Dwayne Wade, and then it's contagious. It kind of catches on where Melo and Chris Paul see the same thing happen. It's almost as if me and Jess, we make very particular moves that gets us deals with ESPN. Matt, what are you gonna think? You're gonna look at what we did, and maybe that's something that hey, them two did that. That's what I want. I think of what happened to the days with Patrick Ewing and Reggie Miller, who they were on teams that were perennial contenders, but it didn't get them over the hump. And Carmelo and Chris Paul, they don't want to end up that way. And I think it's something that's contagious, and they want out. But I don't know that both of them get that this year. I don't know that both of them get that this year. I think if either of them go anywhere, I think it's to the Knicks, because the Knicks were looking to get LeBron and Omari Stoudemire. They didn't get both, so I think they're going to try to go after one of the two. But whichever one they get, I think the other one is basically. I think they're going to stay put. And I think Carmelo gets moved. I think Paul stays put.
I'm going the other way around. I think I said that Carmelo, I think, is staying. I think that New Orleans season is going to not be as good as they want it to be, and be in a competitive situation, constricted by his contract, that they're going to say, hey, we have to move him. And actually, a team you might want to watch is Orlando. Because they have a few pieces there, and they have a point guard in Jameer Nelson that they could move as well, that would benefit New Orleans. And Chris Paul, the dynamic between Chris Paul and Dwight Howard would be just sick to see them there. But I think Orlando is put themselves in a position as well to make some moves and still have their core in there, and to be able to compete with Miami and with Boston.
Yeah, I do. You both guys make great points there, great analogies. And what I see happening here down the line, and it might not be this year, it might be by the end of next year, is you're going to have 3 or 4 teams loaded with a couple superstars each, and then the rest of the teams just aren't going to be able to compete. But the smart ones like Paul and Anthony, they're angling themselves now, and there'll probably be a couple other guys to get to an Orlando or get to a rebuilding Knicks, or someone to be able to challenge Miami. So I think it's all in line. That's what's going to end up happening to the NBA, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But let's look at the off season real quick. Talk about the Knicks real quick.